If you're craving rolling vineyards, crystal clear springs, and a town where a 90-year-old winemaker still greets you in overalls, I've got the place for you. Today for Destination Heartland, we are going to St. James, Missouri. Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Chen with KCTV5 News, so let's dig right in. Joining me now is Kelly Money. I'm going to bring her in. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for joining us today. Kelly is with the St. James Chamber of Commerce. So let's start with this. When it comes to original names, St. James, there's pretty a significance in this, which is Big Prairie, Shoto. Am I saying that right? And also,
I think they Scioto.
Oh, Scioto. Okay, Scioto. So,
hmm
how did the town come to be named St. James?
So it does have a great history, and part of the Scioto name did eventually lead to how we got St. James. So there was a group of settlers, the James family in particular, that lived in Scioto, Ohio. And the way they made their way to St. James is there was a Shawnee Indian that had what we would call the red paint marks on his face.
Hmm.
And the James family from Ohio realized that that was iron. And so they followed back to Missouri, this group of settlers from Scioto, Ohio, and settled in St. James. Um, the James family did establish the first ironworks west of the Mississippi, and so there really is no saint. They just added saint in front of James, but Scioto was one of the names, and eventually they settled on the St. James name.
Cool. And you kind of hit on my next point, which was Merrimack. I hope I'm saying this right too. Merrimack Iron Works, because there is a significant tie with the Civil War, St. James, and the Ironworks.
Correct. So we really are at the 200th year anniversary of the ironworks in St. James. So that takes us back to 1826 when the James family did establish the iron ore with the big furnaces, making iron for many of contracts across America.
Mm.
Um, there was close to around 500 people then that settled here and became the town of St. James. And the Civil War did, when it did break out, at first the ironworks did well. They had contracts with the Union side of the Civil War. But as the war went on, they lost those contracts, and eventually it did lead to the decline and the bankruptcy of the ironworks.
Oh, wow. So that part is actually now true history, part of St. James. Can you actually visit some of the historical sites there, like the Ironworks?
Yes, and I know we'll tap into this, but
Uh
one of
huh.
the great granddaughters, Lucy Wortham James, saw the value in keeping this area preserved. She eventually bought and established a foundation. The foundation is of Dun and Bradstreet family fame
Mm.
that bought the 1,800 acres and has preserved it. That's, gosh, one of the most beautiful places in the state of Missouri. You know, it is a natural spring with trout fishing. But what you'll see are the remnants of the old furnaces, which really sit on the edge of a bluff. You can visualize what took place back in the 1800s, and now it is used as a backdrop for people to visit and learn about the history. But also, it's a great backdrop for some of the concerts they have in the park today.
Oh, that's amazing. And yeah, you read my mind because I was going to ask you about Lucy Wortham James because her legacy truly shaped the town of St. James.
It truly did. When you think of a small town like ours and what amenities we have, it really is because of her foresight. So she was a music enthusiast, health and wellness. She loved recreation and conservation. And so she established this foundation out of New York that allowed us to have a beautiful library, an additional park in town where the lake is named Scioto and has amenities like tennis courts and now a water park for our citizens to enjoy. There's a cemetery in town here. The elementary school is named after her, Lucy Wortham James, or
Mm-hmm.
John F. Hodge is our school. But yeah, Lucy Wortham Memorial Library is here because of her.
So much because of her. Another significant historical figure for St. James, too, is Mamie. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Mamie Owsley. Is that correct? Just tell
Correct.
us a little bit about her, too.
So this is a really cool story. In St. James, Missouri, we had the first woman mayor. And what I have heard about her is that she was meticulous about how things looked and how things were kept. And she decided to run for mayor. And part of her legacy is that she cleaned up the town, and not just with, what we would assume today as litter cleanup,
Uh huh.
but she made sure that all the landlords in town updated and had plumbing, good, healthy plumbing. So she worked with the health departments to improve the conditions of the citizens of St. James. And then she went on to win three more terms, not consecutively, where she was so well liked and respected for the meticulous job that she did that she was mayor three additional terms.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love the stories of these strong female leaders in St. James. That is truly awesome. What are some of the
Yes.
what are some of the other historical figures or, famous connections to St. James that you can tell us about?
So this one is really cool. There is a woman named Phoebe Aberson Hurst, and she was in St. James, and I believe she was Lucy Wortham James' school teacher, and I think she
Oh,
taught the
wow.
children of the employees. But she went on to found the PTO. So we can say the PTO came from our little town of St. James, Missouri. And I don't know if she was the first kindergarten teacher that has sometimes been attached to her. She went on to marry a Hearst and gave birth to William Randolph Hearst
Oh,
of
wow.
California, the Hearst Foundation, and which was the nurse, the first, I think, newspaper
Yeah.
publishing. Yeah. So we look at Dun and Bradstreet and the Hearst Foundation, two very powerful foundations that have ties back to St. James.
And I never knew that. That is so interesting. Not only, just the female leadership role in St. James, which is truly inspiring, but also this direct connection to everybody knows who Hearst is, William Randolph Hearst,
Correct.
and, the Hearst, the corporation that continues to exist today. That is amazing. Rich
Correct.
history in St. James. So let's talk about this. When people come to visit St. James, a beautiful little town, what kind of sites can they tour or see that are tied to this rich history?
So we have, and I would say the St. James Park in town has some of those historical places. There's Lucy's actual playhouse
Oh,
that is on the premises of that park. The James Foundation office is at the beginning of that park, but you're going to find most of your history in Merrimack Spring Park itself. That is where there is a museum, and it ties not only the ironworks, but the natural history of our region. Um, some of the cultural, that's where you're going to find most of it. We don't have a lot of the historical buildings that would have been here. I think we have one of the oldest homes that is a historical site, but I'd say our library is probably one of the places you can still visit. It's been around since the 1940s or 50s, I believe.
oh, that's cool. You already touched on it too a little bit, which was Merrimack Spring Park. Now, what can visitors experience there, see there?
Okay, that is just a wonderful question because it truly is one of the most beautiful spots in the state of Missouri. There's a breathtaking photo that's used and captured by a lot of photographers that come visit that show a waterfall with pure crystal clear bubbling springs.
Oh,
I
wow.
believe 96 gallons of water bubble up a day.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
because that water is cold, it's been a great trout fish hatchery. So as you walk along where the spring bubbles up, you can see fish from that, small all the way to the large sizes. The park takes care of it in conjunction with the conservation department. And kids and families can throw food and feed those fish the water's so clear that you can see that. So trout fishing is just one of the probably most popular things to do in that park. What's grown in recent years are the RV hookups, the glamping sites, the camping in the park.
Mhm.
Um, there's lots of nature and hiking trails there. You just feel like you breathe better when you walk along the river, because it's so clean, and it's a little bit cooler temperatures right next to that spring. The park directors, which are Wes and Kendra Swee, are incredible people, and they have um, really made the park um, available to come for more than just fishing. So they have pollinator classes. They have
Mm.
concerts now, a concert series where they will put up a really cool stage in front of those old furnaces and
Hmm.
shine the lights up, and people just bring their lawn chairs out and hear great concert music. They've added a folky fish fest every year now where it's a lot of folk bands that come in for 2 or 3 days and just play music, and you can get tickets for that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun. Also, is this the on your website for St. James? Is that the picture of Merrimack Spring Park there? It is such a beautiful picture. That's what caught my
Yes,
eye about St. James. I was like,
yes,
"Oh, I want to check into this
that
spot."
is.
That is
That
awesome.
is untouched photos. That's how crystal clear blue it is,
Mhm.
how, very clean. And shortly after, and a lot of people confuse this, it is not the start of the Merrimack River, which is spelled
Uh-huh.
Meramec, but it shortly joins together and is basically the feeder spring for the Merrimack River, which goes all the way to St. Louis.
Oh, okay. And then you were talking about how nature, it's you feel so close to nature out there. What kind of wildlife can you see? Because I imagine with that environment that the wildlife has to be very much a part of that too.
Yes, I you see deer in the herds, and it's this. They have these lower fields that run right alongside the river, and if you pull your car in, they're so used to people that you really can get very close to the deer. Of course, the other, rabbits and squirrels run rampant throughout the park, but that is primarily the nature that you're going to see there.
Oh, that's so neat. The other part about St. James, which I didn't know, which is Route 66 runs through the area too. Just tell us a little bit about the impact of Route 66 and the heritage.
So, we're coming upon that 100-year anniversary,
Yeah.
and we are a Route 66 town. Cuba is our next door neighbor, and so people can get on from Cuba, and it brings you right in to the heart of downtown St. James. And here's where our town got a little bit hurt with advancements is Highway 44 when the interstate was built came through and cut off our interstate. So now a lot of our Route 66 is the outer road, but we still have this really cool downtown area where you can go to Johnny's on Route 66, which is, our burger bar, pool
Mm-hmm.
house, and it sits right on one of the only two divided boulevards on all of Route 66. So it's a great photo op right there. Of course, back in the day, there was all of the gas stations. There was a Spurgeon 66, the car dealerships, all the businesses along St. James that really thrived because of that.
Oh, that's so neat. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that cartoon Cars when Route 66
Right.
came through, the town just kind
Yes.
of like, exploded. So it's kind of that same thing. St. James also has a known name as Forest City of the Ozarks. Tell us a little bit about that.
Correct. So what's kind of ironic is that it was a big prairie. There were not trees.
Uh huh.
And one of the, I don't know if you'd call him a founder, but I believe back in the day worked for the James Foundation, which was tied to Merrimack Spring Park, did a mission where they planted um, actually sweet gum trees throughout the entire town. So they are beautiful tall trees, but they do produce gumballs. We could have a
Oh.
gumball festival every year, but they go right alongside all of our railroad tracks and downtown and throughout our parks. And you would never know that we were a prairie before. because of all of the tree plantings.
Oh, that's so interesting. So that's why the forest city of the Ozarks
Right.
name came to be. That is so
Yes.
interesting. And from the trees to the vineyard, we know that vineyards are a beautiful part of St. James. Let's talk about the history of Italian immigrants that influenced the winemaking culture there in St. James.
Sure. And what's ironic is it's all of these pieces of history
Uh
coming
huh.
together, totally different from the James family from Ohio. So from northern Italy, um, the Italian immigrants had first settled in a place in Arkansas, and it wasn't conducive to the environment and climate that they were from. And so they came back a little bit more east and found us at St. James in the heart of the Ozarks, and it was a better climate and they were grape growers. And so they started Concord grapes, and we are tied to the Welch's company grapes. We grew grapes for
Oh,
Welch's.
okay.
Yeah, the Concord grape.
Oh, that's so interesting. Everybody knows Welch's too. There's so many interesting
Everybody.
ties to St.
Yes,
James. That is so
yes,
interesting. Okay, what we want to do right
yes.
now is take a quick break and then we will be back with more on St. James and with Kelly. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Destination Heartland. Today we are exploring St. James, Missouri. Gotta tell you, there is so much here. The history is so rich, but also the outdoor life is incredible. So I'm gonna go ahead and once again bring back Kelly Money with the St. James Chamber of Commerce. And Kelly, we have talked a little bit about the outdoor opportunities in St. James, which there's so much. But what I want to talk about is the fact that there are natural attractions there that people can basically explore. So tell us what is on tap in that arena.
Okay, I'm going to start in a couple different buckets here.
Okay.
So we have many rivers that come in through our area and our region. So Steelville, Missouri, which is our next door neighbor, is the floating capital of Missouri. And so a lot of people, maybe in their high school years or their 20s, were coming out to these small towns and they didn't even know where they were going. And that would have been Steelville and St. James. And so we have the three floating rivers here are the Huzaw, the Cordaway or Courtois, some people say, and the Merrimack River. The Merrimack River has, some 10-mile floats, maybe more slower paced. It's a bigger
Wow.
river. And there's all kinds of floating operations out here, outfitters that we would call. Bass River Resort, Huzaw is a big one. Onondaga Cave is just up the road from us in a phenomenal state park to visit. And that's in about 10 to 15 miles from us. You can stay in St. James and go float out. You can do hikes, but that is the Merrimack River. And then the other two are your classic, like winding rivers, where you might really have to have some talent in floating around curves and, depending if we have a high rain year. But those are where you can get your big group of friends and hop on a raft and bring your cooler and float different miles down those type of rivers.
That is so okay. So that is one thing that I haven't done yet since I've been here in the Midwest. I learned about floating when I came out here because they do it up in Omaha too. That sounds awesome. And there's something about that. So the image of floating down the river is so tranquil too. It's a very relaxing thing to do.
It is, and especially if you want the relaxing, you can get the big rafts where 10 to 15 people can sit on them. And
Oh
that's where you like
wow.
talk with your friends and you pull over to the banks and you have a sandwich. But if you're a little more adventurous, you can hop in a kayak, which is really fun for that individual, pace down the river. You can go as fast as you want. There is a place past Merrimack Spring Park that every time we go, we see eagles. And so the nature
Oh,
along the
that's
way
cool.
is awesome. It's such a peaceful thing to do, but
Mm-hmm.
also fun.
Oh, that sounds fun. And I didn't even know that you could get rafts that big where you can. I mean, you heard of like whitewater rafting, but I didn't even think of doing that for floating. That is awesome. That's really cool.
Yes. Yep. In
Also,
fact, you can partner up with another raft and tie them together and have a barge go down the
oh my
river.
gosh,
So,
that sounds like so
yep.
much fun. So much fun. And then beyond the floating, are there other also water recreation that people can take advantage of?
So in St. James, that park that I mentioned earlier, St.
Mm-hmm.
James Park, I don't know if it's been since, 10 to 15 years ago, but they built a full water park. So this is
Oh,
where you can bring your kids. It has the water slides and the little lazy river, and it can be open to the public. You can buy a pass, I think, for the year. So that's another fun recreational area um, for water.
all right. So now let's go from the outdoors back to downtown. Let's talk about downtown. Kind of paint us a picture of that downtown scene in St. James. What can people find there?
Okay, here's what our downtown looks like. You
Uh
get
huh.
off of Highway 44. We're exactly in between St. Louis and Springfield. And so you turn left and you go into the most charming, I would say, old throwback Hallmark type town. It's a lot of the original brick buildings. And we've had a resurgence of some of our local builders and construction and business owners remodel, refurbish. We have what we call the old Opera House, where it is now for Airbnbs that you stay in these
Oh.
loft apartments. Many of our buildings have upstairs places that you can stay in downtown. We have a really cool historic building that is one of our nicer Mexican restaurants. And then we have some very unique shops. We have painted egg fibers, which is your quilting and fibers where they're in from Europe. These yarns are from
Ah.
Europe, and the owner has a degree in that, and she can help people really customize things that they want to create or make. We have a classic JB coffee house where they homemade, cinnamon rolls and have incredible coffees. And then one of the most unique places is we have Leatherwood handmade cigars.
Mm.
And they get some of the most unique cigars, but I am telling you, you walk in and feel like you might be in a New York speakeasy back from the 1920s.
Wow.
The young owners did such a fabulous job creating these cool atmospheres. We do have railroad tracks that run right through the middle of town, which gives us a plaza area. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have four streets where additional restaurants and businesses, Thrive restaurants and flower shops and bakeries. We have a gazebo in our downtown and a train
Cool.
depot that has been remodeled for the history part.
Oh, that's so neat. And let's talk about, so you talked a little bit about the shops and things. Let's talk about dining. What's the dining scene like in St. James? It sounds pretty amazing there. I mean, you have this great downtown, so I'm sure there's lots of different dining opportunities too.
This is where I think we are really privileged to have some of the choices that we have for a small town. So I'm going to start with who kind of put us on the map, and that was Sybil's St. James.
Mm.
And these were restaurant owners. They had been in the business, and they came from Rolla and built what I would call a Southern charm, beautiful restaurant with a full wraparound porch. And this has been voted the number one restaurant in the state of Missouri multiple times in Missouri Rural Magazine. There's decor like none other. The bar area feels like you're in a warm, cozy, upscale home. It's, you know, nightly specials from steak and shrimp and seafood,
Yum.
executive chef on staff. There's 2 to 3 dining areas, but it is an experience that people come from all over to go to Sybil's.
Oh, yeah. And you said it was the best in the state. Is that right? Is that what you said?
I think it was voted the best restaurant in Missouri Rural Magazine multiple years.
Oh, wow. Definitely got to put that one on the list too. And what about like, are there any specialty foods that St. James is known for?
You know, I don't know that St. James has the specialty, but because the Italian settlement,
Mm-hmm.
there's a big Catholic settlement, and they used to do the Italian spaghetti dinner.
Ooh,
There's like
yummy.
meatball recipes that float around here that can't be duplicated anybody else, and a lot of the Italians keep it secret, but every now and then we get to taste it. So I hate to say I can promise good Italian food, because it's hard to find. But I would say the Italian heritage is represented like in our Public House St. James Winery
Mm-hmm.
restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They do a signature spaghetti and meatball dinner every year, and they have a great menu of brick oven pizza, farm to table
Mm.
hamburgers, um, just some unique food at Public House Garden.
Oh, that sounds delicious. And so I always ask this too when we explore a lot of these towns. What are the local favorites that the tourists may not necessarily know about? Like, what's your favorite?
Okay, so I've got a couple favorites, and I call
Okay.
them St. James best kept secrets.
Uh huh.
We have Muttley's, which could be like your tavern or pub that you might see in Ireland, and it's on our main street, and it's a pool house, but they have amazing pizza. And I call it our best kept secret. And so you can go out, they put a beer garden in the back. That's really fun to go grab a pizza there. Johnny's on Route 66 has some of the biggest burgers with bacon that they don't skimp. You will not miss out on a good burger there. And so I think those are some of the best kept secrets. Uh, Spencer Manor Winery also has an executive chef, and there are the Brussels sprouts are to die for. We just go in some nights for Brussels sprout appetizers.
Oh my gosh, that sounds delicious. I love Brussels sprouts. I mean, I think that's an
Yes,
underrated vegetable for sure.
you're right. You're right. And they're crispy, and so you can eat the whole plate and not feel
Yeah,
guilty.
exactly. Okay, let's talk about one of the best things about Destination Heartland is we get to go and explore all the different towns, and especially when it comes to seasonal events and festivals. Because I know St. James probably has a good list of seasonal events and festivals that you guys have year round. So just tell us what's on tap
We
there.
do. Okay, so Sip and Savor is an event that really does showcase the best of St. James. We close down the streets in downtown and we have a giant craft beer garden. So this is not, your normal beers, but all of the craft beers. We have wonderful business that carries like 85% of the craft beers. And then we bring all of our wineries and they set up a sampling. We have live music, food trucks. We have a VIP tent and we're in our 15th year of doing Sip and Savor, and it's always the first Saturday in May. And it is a beautiful event. We put um, tables on the street so people can eat and listen to music, and they get a free wine glass and tote bag, and they get about 4 hours to sample the best of the best. And they're all Missouri wineries. A lot of them are from St. James, and some of them are margaritas and whiskeys that we add to it. And we put this event together for anybody in the region to come, and it's $30 a ticket. So that's one of our favorites. The other is Old Ironworks Day is always, I believe, the second Saturday in October. And that's where you're walking back in time. You are walking back into the 1800s. All of
Cool.
the old crafters, quilting, iron, um, all of the ones that have these trades that are somewhat dying, you can go down and see them in action with live music throughout the day, great food. But Old Ironworks is one of the biggest traditions that we've had here in St. James in October.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And also, I always ask this too because here we are coming up on America's 250th and the World
Yeah.
Cup coming to Kansas City for that matter. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
regional traffic. Do you guys have any events coming up that you want to share to tell people about St. James?
Well, in addition to the Sip and Savor, we
Mm-hmm.
have an annual Grape and Fall Festival. And this is a 3-day festival that's been going on for 93 years.
Wow.
It's always the weekend after Labor Day. And we are going to make it a 100-year anniversary theme for Route 66. And this includes probably one of the best parades and street market on Saturday. Our downtown area just comes alive on that day. We also have Nelson Hart Park in town, where there's 3 days worth of festivals. And it kicks off with the Queen pageant that goes back from those Rosati grape growers.
Uh huh.
Um, where the best talent in the area comes and they compete for that title. We've had wiener dog races, working dog shows, a wine and beer garden, and we just bring in lots of vendors and fun things for our community. But That's probably one of our biggest. We do a great Fourth of July fireworks show
Hmm.
already, but we are going to amp it up this year. And we launched those from our middle school. And Hutchison Ford is a great business in town, and they have a giant lot. And so a majority of the town comes and watches fireworks. And they have always snow cones available for all the kids, food trucks, and different drinks are available.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun. So then if someone were to come visit St. James, how long should they plan a visit for? Because it sounds like there's so much to do and see there.
So here's what I would do. I would
Uh-huh.
get take off work on Friday and I would get out here Thursday night if you can and get yourself a nice Airbnb. Like I said, in one of those downtown lofts. We also have beautiful farms that many people have Airbnbs. So you could have a farm stay while you're here. But if you have to do a little work on Friday, get that in and then start your fun on Friday. Um, with many, like the public house, I'd make reservations at Sybil's, go out to Spencer Manor. You can really take the tract if you want to do a wine weekend with
Ooh.
your girlfriends or, maybe with a companion or a spouse, do the wine, the restaurants, and the shopping tract. You can also come out with more of that adventure style. So let's say you want to do some floating in Merrimack Spring Park and fishing. We have an 11-mile Forest City bike trail in town if you're liking bikes. We have a beautiful, cool pickleball court
Oh, fun.
complex downtown. So if you like action and adventure and moving, you can go that route. And then we have places like Rich's Famous Burgers and Country Bob's and just those different cafes. What I'd say you're going to experience in St. James is everything good comes from the owners and the people who live here. So you're not going to see the big box stores,
Oh, I
the
love
chain
it.
restaurants. Everything is unique to St. James. And you can tell with the passion of those owners in the environments that they create, the products that they serve. It really is, you walk away going, wow, I can't believe this small of a town has this much to do. And I think 3 days, it'll make you want to come back again.
Oh, I love that. That sounds amazing. Well, that is all we have time for today, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll definitely put St. James on the list to visit because it sounds like an awesome place for sure.
We thank you for the opportunity to tell you about St. James.
All right. Thank you so much.